Hello, dear friends. Hi. Hi, world. I hope you're doing well. And I'm so excited about today's episode because I don't know about you, but I am a true believer that using herbs can be very beneficial for our fur babies. And I wish there are a lot of information up there, but today you and I, we are very lucky because we have the professional. We have Rita Hogan. She's very well known worldwide, and she helps pet professionals, she helps pet parents, and so many other people around the world to know more about how they can use the herbs. She's a clinical canine specialist. She has an amazing portfolio. She helps in so many different ways, and that's what we are going to learn more. But without further ado, I want to welcome Rita. So thank you so very much for being with us today. Woo-hoo!
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. Super excited to be here.
Believe
Awesome.
me, yeah, believe me too. So can you tell, I was very, very impressed and so grateful that you said yes, Vasi. I will come to Pet Pigs World Show. And as I mentioned to you, I saw the interview you did with Poppy Phillips, and you said yes, I will come, Vasi, to your show. But can you explain to us a little more of what you do? Because I'm sure there are other people like me who don't know too much about herbs and how beneficial they can be for fur babies.
I am a clinical canine herbalist. I do some work with cats, but I mainly focus on dogs. I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so what I do is I help pet parents work with their dogs with herbs and help balance out chronic disease, chronic imbalances in the body that manifest in disease. I'm not a doctor. I don't treat disease. What I do is I use herbs to intelligently balance out certain types of imbalances like kidney, liver, digestion, sometimes, in the head where you have cognitive or dementia, cognitive issues or dementia in your pup, or arthritis and movement issues, urination, going potty, things like that. A lot of people contact me after they haven't had very good luck with like veterinary care, that the veterinarian that they're seeing can't offer them anything that can help them. And so that's where an herbalist might step in.
Very, very interesting, what you do, and it's just like the approach you have. And so, like, doesn't matter the age of the fur baby, of the doggies, if they're puppies or they're a little older, or pretty much it depends of the personality and the health situation of the fur baby.
Yeah, so I can help almost everyone. It depends. If a dog has diabetes, I can't help. If a dog has like very severe cardiac issues, I'm limited. But congested heart failure, I'm limited with that. Other than that, I can support the body in almost any type of condition. So, puppies up to very geriatric dogs. Yeah, and I have lots of geriatric patients, lots of older dogs, and then quite a few really, really young dogs too. So anything in between. And it's just it is just a wonderful, I think it's a wonderful career because I get to see all these wonderful creatures and happy pet parents when their dog starts feeling better. And a lot of, again, I get a lot of people when they're at the point of severe frustration and a lot of times sadness that they can't find a way to help their puppy. So it's very rewarding.
I'm sure it's a rewarding, and it's very interesting to me. I told you I find it very fascinating. I'm always true believer that there are different alternative ways, more on the healthy side, how you can help and support your fur baby. And I also want to ask you, especially now with winter coming up, for most of the countries, especially our forwards, are there kind of a typical symptoms or typical things
Yeah,
people might
absolutely.
experience?
Yes. So, for this hemisphere, we are coming into winter, like Australia, they're coming into spring, but we're coming into winter, we're coming into fall and winter. And when you step out of summer, the summer energies, and you go into fall, you want to look for issues with the lungs and the large intestine. So you might have some diarrhea or constipation. You might have some breathing issues or more hacking, or it depends on what your dog, if your dog already has like some weakness in the lungs. And then when you go into winter, winter really rules the kidneys. So you'll see more like leg injuries. You might see more urinary tract infections, definitely bladder weakness, incontinence. So these are things that kind of happen in wintertime. But the good thing about it is that it's the perfect time to work with those conditions, to support those organs. So you support the lungs and the large intestine in the fall, and you support the kidneys in the wintertime. So it kind of can go either way. So anyone can benefit from working with herbs during that time.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's really great, to know that, people, they know what to expect on average, and that this is really the right time to be able in peace and quiet to to fix it. And also kind of especially with Thanksgiving and with the holiday season, when we have most likely some guests coming over, and as we know, they like to feed our fur babies under the table without you knowing. Are there maybe a couple of tips or pointers you can give to people?
Yeah, I think one of the a couple of things that you can do and have on hand. So if you're looking like for a commercial product, I guess one of the products I would have on hand is a product from the Adored Beast Apothecary called Gut Soothe, which helps when the gut is, when your dog's or cat's stomach is upset from eating something they shouldn't have. That's a good one. For an herb, like an individual herb, possibly marshmallow root or slippery elm, have that on hand, because you can make like a kind of a lukewarm tea, and it forms kind of like a gel consistency, and you can give that to your dog to help their tummies feel better. There's also a homeopathic remedy called Arsenica album, and that would be homeopathic remedies have potencies, and so you would use what's called a 30C, and you give one dose, and it, oh my God, it helps so much if your stomach is hurting from eating something you shouldn't have, or if your dog or cat is have a very upset stomach and might possibly be vomiting. That one I always have on hand. Another homeopathic remedy that I love is called Nux Vomica. It's a weird name, right?
It is.
But, Nux Vomica, Nux Vomica, Nux Vomica 30C. Again, one dose, and then you kind of wait to see if everything kind of clears up. Those two are really great to have on hand for Thanksgiving, for sure. But the biggest thing for me, it's nothing to do with herbalism, is anyone who comes into my house during Thanksgiving, I give them a stern look, like,
What?
do not feed my dogs under the table. And I also don't give my dogs access to the Thanksgiving table.
Smart.
I tend to put a gate off the living room, and they go in the living room and we have our dinner, we clean it up, and then they have access, and I always save them something from dinner so they know that, like, you're, just behave, and it's like, behave and you'll get a treat. And so, but I don't give them access to the Thanksgiving table. One time when I used to do kennel-free boarding, I really got my start doing kennel-free boarding in they're mountains, but hills in Tennessee. And we were boarding, I think we were boarding like 35 dogs at the time.
Wow.
Running around the house, and we had Thanksgiving dinner and everyone was being behaved, but I took my eyes off the prize for a minute, and this dog had the entire turkey carcass in its mouth, and it was growling. It was in the corner and it was guarding its prize. It was like, you know what? I just told him, I said, listen, you're giving that back. You are giving that back. And one way or another, I'm getting it, because we're not going to the vet. And I grabbed that sucker and pulled it away from him. It was so weird because it was slippery, and oh my God, he was just so devastated. He was like, but it was mine, And, so I don't tend to let dogs be underneath the table during Thanksgiving, because there's so many things that they could get in trouble. And a lot of people don't realize that they can't have cooked bones, and so they'll drop something with bones in it. And then all of a sudden, you're running to the vet. But I can say that if a dog does get a cooked bone, what you do is you make up the slippery elm or the marshmallow root kind of slurry. It'll get kind of gelish, and you just syringe that in the mouth, and it will coat the gastrointestinal tract and help that the bone, it will coat the bone as well, and it'll help it, slip out, which is really important because the bones can, they can cause injury to internal organs.
Oh, I'm sure, especially if they're sharp. Oh my God, I can imagine.
Bones are very brittle. So
Yeah.
you don't want it to harm the gastrointestinal tract.
No, for sure, for sure. And I want to ask you, so you mentioned my doggies. So how many doggies do you have? How many fur babies do you have?
Well, I have 5. So I have a 12-pound pug named Fig. I have a probably like a 19-pound pug named Ronan. I have a 50-pound basset hound. She's probably 55 pounds. Her name's Lola.
Wow.
And then I have a 65-pound bulldog named Gertie. And then I have a 50-pound bulldog named Wheezy.
Oh my God. You probably need sooner a bigger house with so many.
My house is not small. So definitely not small. It's one of those, it's a single story, but it's kind of long, and
I love
they have a lot of room to run around, and I have a huge yard. And they go for a walk in the forest every day.
Wow.
We go for a walk, and we have lots of like really nearby walking paths and parks and stuff. But my little bulldog Wheezy doesn't really like to go anywhere. She's a very strange little dog. She's very much a couch potato. We're trying to work with her vitality and nervous system because, like, for instance, yesterday, and this happens a lot, so I'll tell you what kind of herb would be good for this.
Thank you.
Yesterday, we brought her to the ocean, a park called Priest Point, and she was running in the water. She was having such a great time. And then one of the boats that was like far off made like a low kind of like boom noise. I don't know what they were doing, but they made just like this low boom, and that was it. It was like someone switched off a switch, and she was running back the way that we came, only the way that we came. We couldn't go any other way. She was going back the way she came to the car, and she was on leash, but she's super strong, and I don't really, I'm not a big one on putting anything that's going to constrict her movement. So, she just has a basic little harness on that. She was just ready to go. She was like, I am a bag of cement and I am running. And so, and because she's little, but she's so heavy.
Strong.
And if she was done, and the thing is with her is that she'll never go back there again.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately, yes.
so we are working with her nervous system because this happens a lot. It started off with fireworks and our neighbors when we lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It started off with that. And well, my partner lived there. I didn't live there, but it started off with those types of noises. And then it just has consistently gotten worse. And that usually comes from kidneys. Okay. So
Oh,
we're coming up into the perfect time to do a lot of intensive work with Wheezy so that in the spring, she's not afraid of every noise because it really is a hindrance for her life. And it's a hindrance for ours. You know, like we take all the dogs for a walk and we have to leave Wheezy behind, but she doesn't even get off the couch. She's like, yeah, I'm not doing it. But it's only because she's afraid. So, you know, working with fear, a lot of times fear is seated in the kidneys. It's very traditional Chinese medicine concept there. It's seated in the kidneys, but it's so true. Like when you start to support the kidneys, that fear starts to dissipate. So I use a mixture of skull cap, which there's many skull caps out there, but this is Latifloria, Scullitaria latifloria skull cap, and then nettle seed. So those two together are such a great combination for fear and for dealing with the kidney and relaxing the nervous system. There's many other remedies like milky oats and fig gemotherapy. I mean, I could go on we could do an entire session on the nervous system, but actually probably 5 sessions. But those are the two that I find work really well for dogs in combination for fear. And then we use flower essences for Wheezy, like violet and marshmallow. And she's gotten so much better. Just the fact that she went to the park yesterday was phenomenal. And so, but again, someone had to let off some type of, you know, and it's the low hums. It's not the large noises. It's the low hums, like helicopters, the boom of a firework, you know, the low boom before it goes off. It's not the crackle. It's those low hums. We live near a military base. I mean, it's actually miles and miles and miles away. However, you know, it takes about 30 minutes to get there, but every now and then during the week, you'll hear this, just like that, just a, you know, and they're doing whatever they're doing over there. And, you know, you can hear her jump off the couch and she'll come right over by you. And then she, you know, vibrating. And, I try not to make a big deal. I give her some rescue remedy, which is a flower essence blend, and that helps her immensely. So, you know, we're just working with her, but this happens to a lot of dogs. They're afraid or reactive, like, you know, dogs that react to every dog on the leash. That's a different set of parameters, but like different set of herbs. But I think a lot of people have these issues with their dogs, that being afraid of noises. And another emotion of the kidney is worry. So yeah. And so what are owners doing most of the time about their dogs? They worry about them just consistently, panic and worry and fear that something's going to happen to their dogs, or they're worrying and afraid themselves, especially after just coming through this pandemic. And, you know, we're still dealing with it. A lot of people are stressed out, worried, scared, fearful. And that depletes their kidney energy. And then our dogs are so much of like a mirror to us, where their kidneys start getting depleted because they're worrying about us, because a lot of people don't realize this, but they can smell it. They smell fear on us. They like horses can smell fear. If you are fearful and super afraid, you know, don't go directly near a horse because you might scare them, because they can smell your fear, and it freaks them out. So, you know, you kind of have to work your way up to being near a horse. And it's the same with dogs. They smell it. They smell your worry. They smell your fear. And it makes them worry because they love us. They totally, I mean, you know that. You have your little chihuahua, you know, they love us and they care about us, and they start to worry and they start to fret, and it depletes kidney energy when we worry and when we're afraid. So it's kind of like it bounces back. I can't tell you how many clients I've seen thousands and thousands of dogs, and I can't tell you how many owners of dogs share their dogs and the owners share the same issue. Just the
I
same,
can believe it. I can
like
believe
heart problems. Same, like they share. I have clients that have multiple clients that have heart problems, and all of their dogs have heart problems. You know, I have clients that have nervous system issues. All of their dogs are completely nervous and kind of like on all the time. And so a lot of times I'll end up working with the person and the dog. I'm going to move back here because the sun is shining down my face.
Yeah.
First, hold on, I'm moving. Is that better? Oh, wait, it's
No,
not.
it's
Hold on.
actually, but it was beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah,
There we
now
go.
it's great. Yes.
Now my desk is, but so yeah, it's fascinating. There's so much that we don't know. You know, there's so much that we don't know of what's going on in the background of everything, you know. So herbs really help that, because herbs, they provide, I would say, intelligence in the body. They don't just do what you think they're doing. They do a whole bunch of other things. You know, they work out imbalances. They work out with the nervous system. A lot of them work systemically, which is, you know, throughout the whole body. So I find that they can really provide support for sure.
It's amazing. And I just actually want to bring a couple of points. Very interesting. So first of all, if us as regular pet parents, we see that our fur babies are, you know, like frightened, or maybe they're afraid, or whatever it's the case, you know, maybe we really should consider going a little more deep into trying to find the issue and solve it. And that's the reason why I'm so happy that you know, people can work with you and then you can help them with this. You have courses and etc. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I mean, I hear it from so many professionals, and now you're with the herbs, you know, we did also dog trainer. We have done so many professional, even for me as a photographer. And I know that if the pet parent, however they feel, their fur baby mirrors. So photography, herbs,
Yeah.
dog training. So everything, including, you know, we have a lot of people into the pet fashion, even you walking on the runway, friends, with your fur babies. And here is the time to just remind you, because all of us, we know, you said it really nicely, life change. The past couple of years have not been the easiest, but we as pet parents have a choice to make. Are we going to give into the worries, or are we going to listen to relaxing music, maybe go for a walk, or just hug our babies and try to look at life in a little easier way? And this way we do goodness for us, but also for our fur babies. But it's just so fascinating, you explaining it from like your career profession point of view. It's so fascinating for me. I love it.
Well, you know, and the thing is that I've experienced this firsthand. Like, wow. One of my first dogs was a Rottweiler. Her name was Iggy, and I loved her. I got her as a puppy. I have to admit, I knew nothing about the breed. I really was kind of attracted to how they look. You know, that deep black with the brown, you know, just beautiful. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I think maybe I was 23, and I'm 51 now. So it was a long time ago. But this is when I really realized that as pet parents, we have to be confident. You know, we have to be confident for our pets. And I basically took her as a puppy and turned her into a nervous wreck, because I was a nervous wreck around her. I was, you know, when she was a puppy, she growled at me, and and I didn't know what I was doing as far as training is concerned. And she was a little on the aggressive side. And I hired a trainer, and I'm so glad that I did. But I hired a trainer, and she just basically sat down and said, "This is not her problem. This is your problem."
Wow.
And she said, you know, because she was not anything like that with the trainer. The trainer came in, completely ignored her, sat down, you know, Iggy came over to her. Then, you know, she was very sweet to Iggy. but she sat down and just kind of handed it to me and said, hey, you know, this is your problem and this is why. And I was like, oh my God. But I did my best to kind of turn that around, but I realized I was in over my head, especially when Iggy got huge, like she got really big. And then, you know, when I would walk her, people would cross the street. They were afraid of her. So what's really interesting is one day a man came over my house. He was this big man. He had such calm energy. His energy was so like easy going, like a surfer, right? He was so easygoing. And he sat, and usually she would, you know, she was very protective of me. I felt very safe around her, but she sat on the couch with him and put her head on his lap and just turned into this big baby, right? And I was just sitting back, just like, is happening? Like, this is crazy. I've never seen her like this, especially with men. And I was just like, this is so weird. And he kind of left my life, right? And this is such an amazing story, and it's 100% true. I had met someone else, and Iggy took their dog and shook it. And it was a little dog. It didn't hurt it, but took it and shook it, and it pooped everywhere. And we felt terrible. And I realized that I had to rehome my dog. And I was not the owner for my dog. I just knew it. I just didn't, it's just not in my nature to be that kind of like domineering as my personality. But what I realized was Iggy needed something else. And because she was mirroring my fear, no matter where we were, I was still on edge that she was going to grab a dog, hurt somebody, bite somebody. She hated being teased, you know, so I just, like, I tried so hard, and I was so young. Well, I'm sitting there on a Friday night and I get a phone call, right? Out of the blue. This is months after I met this man. It was him. He was on the phone and he said, I haven't been able to get your dog out of my mind. Like, all I do is think about her. And he said, could I come see her? And I said, sure. And he came to see her, and they were like soulmates. It was crazy. And I said, you know, he said, oh, I would just love it. This is the dog I've always wanted. And so I gave her to him. Wow. And she lived her best life. I got to see her all the time, but she was a completely different dog. She never growled at anyone. She never was upset. She was completely calm. And she lived until she was almost 15, which is pretty old for a Rottweiler.
Yes, for her. Yes.
Yeah. And he had a paintball field. He owned a paintball field, and she went with him everywhere, in the car, at work. They were never apart. And then, you know, eons later, I get an email from him. I had moved away, and telling me that she had passed away, and that, you know, thank you so much. Like, I can't, like, it was just a serendipitous moment, but it was such a testament to the energy that we put out, because I was young and afraid. And so, you know, that energy that you put out is what you're going to get back.
Wow. And
his energy was, even when he called, like, you know, even when he called, he said, hi, this is Joe. Like, just really subdued, calm man, and just a gentle giant. You know what I'm saying? And she loved it. That's what she needed. And I could not provide that for her when I was 23. I mean, I was like, you know, on sugar and, you know, but yeah, it was such a testament to like how we mirror. So I've taken that experience and kind of brought it into my clinical practice, which didn't start until 7 years later.
Wow.
And also I learned from Iggy, I learned the power of fresh diet. I learned the power of food that did wonders for her behavior. But the biggest thing was my behavior.
Wow.
And,
this is powerful.
Yeah. And it was amazing. And I've seen that play out in so many clients that I have. And I never underestimate it, because I really have dealt with it like straight on. And after, what's funny is after I rehomed Iggy, I actually started volunteering for Rottweiler Rescue
Wow.
so
That's
that I could understand the breed better and
Mhm.
understand, like, just understand them more, because I was so confused that, I dealt with like loss and grief by rehoming her. And I felt like a crappy pet parent, but I actually did the best thing ever for her because my good friend was friends with him. And that's how he actually came over to my house. And he would tell me all the time, just the love affair that they had. So it was so cute.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I can relate. It's very powerful. We used to have 3 Dobermans, and the meat doggy, Cindy, she never felt like part of our family. The grandma and the granddaughter were perfect, but the mom, she was black, the other 2 were brown. She just didn't fit. And then eventually, I remember, as much as I can remember, because I was a young child, my parents gave her to a very good home. They had a lot of land. She was running, she was happy, and that was the best life for her. So, and this is like, it shows you what a special person you are, but also it really brings a great point that we have to be a little more cautious around our fur babies and just really understand that. And again, friends, I know everyone is doing fantastic, but I know that there will be some new parents, some new pet parents who will be questioning themselves, am I doing good job? The same like you, what can I improve? And
Iggy taught me to choose wisely.
Amazing.
Don't choose a dog on how it looks. I was just young and dumb. And to choose wisely. Like, I've had probably 16 dogs since Iggy, and I've never rehomed another one. Never.
Wow.
I've never rehomed. I've done some fostering, but they weren't my dogs. I was just, fostering for a little bit. I'm a terrible foster because I usually end up keeping them. But you need to choose wisely, because you want to choose a dog that's good for not only for your heart, but for your environment and how you live your life and how active you are. If you're more a sedentary person, or a person that is a workaholic, or has a lot of personal time, you don't want to go out get a Vizsla or a Weimaraner, because those dogs need exercise. They need a job, or a border collie or an Australian shepherd. You want to look into even mixes of those, like a mixed healer or border collie or Australian shepherds. A lot of those dogs will need a job, and if you don't give them one, they'll make one by destroying your home. And Itchy definitely taught me to choose wisely and to figure out, okay, so what types of dogs are good for my life? And of course your life changes, but like at that time, and dogs are a commitment. Iggy lived 15 years, right? I got her when I was 23, so that I would be 33, almost 38 years old. That's a commitment. So you really, like, if you don't have a dog, or you're getting another one, just make sure that breed or that breed mix. I love mixed dogs. They're my favorite, actually. Is appropriate. Instead of, oh, he's super cute, let's take him home. You know what I mean? And do you have the money to feed them a good diet? Do you have, a little dog, a Chihuahua, eats a lot less than a Great Dane, right? And so do you have the money to feed them like a really poor kibble, or do you have the money to feed them what they should be eating, which is a species appropriate diet? And that is also a factor. So there's lots of things to look in when you have a dog, or when you're looking for a new dog. And I think those things are important, because the dog is going to have the issues as, getting rehomed, or, not getting the proper nutrition, based on our choices. So, yeah. I mean, not much to do with herbalism, but I
No,
don't
it's
deal
very
with just
valuable.
herbalism. I deal with what's going on at home. I deal with the environment of the dog. I deal with how the dog, how I assume the dog is feeling based on its actions. So there's a lot more than just herbs that goes on when you're looking at a dog holistically. You look at their environment, their parents, their stress, toxins, a lot of those things that affect the internal dog, which is the nervous system, is huge and often overlooked.
Wow, I cannot thank you enough. This is so valuable, and just you had such an incredible points. I can tell you, I just had one of my clients. Unfortunately, one of her pups passed away, and she asked me, Vasi, what do you think? I had to go through all of those thoughts, and I told her from my humble experience. Now I know more, and hopefully our listeners and viewers know as well. And please, friends, share this with your friends. I think everyone, it's really great information. And I told her, you're about to have a second grandchild. The breed you are getting or the baby you're adopting needs to be pet friendly. But some pets also went through trauma. So few years later, suddenly the trauma came out, and then what are we doing if you have like a little child running there, even if you're the grandparents, all of those things, I think they're important. And I want to ask you how people can find you, and with if people are wondering if you can help them, how they can reach out to you, and what would you suggest them?
They can find me at canineherbalist.com. Are you able to put show notes?
Yes, they're already actually there. I already added all of your links, including the link tree, everything. It's done.
So they can find me at canineherbalist.com. I'm very busy, but what you do is just send an email. There's a consult information form on my website. You send it, and my assistant will get back to you and tell you how to make an appointment. Usually there's a bit of a wait. If it's an emergency, sometimes I can work you in, or I can refer you to one of my colleagues that I work with. So we try together with the people that I work with. We try to accommodate as many people as we can. You can also one of a great way to get my services at a highly discounted rate is I have a subscription group. So yes, it's in the link tree, the link, the subscription group is in there. And I have a subscription group where you can post questions and I answer them directly. I spend time on there every day answering questions. I also have, and that's only $10 a month. Amazing. So you can quit at any time. And then I also have an Ask the Herbalist section on my website. And that is depending on how many questions you have, it's $20 to $30. And I answer those on a daily basis, except for on the weekends. After I'm done with work, I answer those questions. And then, but I tell you, the subscription community is a lot less expensive to get my time versus, I do a lot of things for free, like these things, like podcasts and training. The subscription book, group, I do a training every month on a subject, like we just did lipomas, which are fatty tumors. We just did a training on lipomas, and I also have another live training that's a question and answer on live. So you can come on there and ask any question about whatever's going on. Part of that community platform is I have some other courses on there, and I'm thinking, and I have a podcast.
I love your podcasts. I know that as we are doing this as live, or you friends are listening this as a podcast, Rita just released a new podcast episode, and make sure, and I'm very excited. I'm going to listen it, but friends, the link tree, the website of Rita and the rest of her links are already, if you're watching this as live, are there, or you can find them below in the description of our Pet Pics World podcast. So there is no way to say we cannot reach out and connect
Yeah.
with Rita. But you are a very given person. I cannot thank you truly from the bottom of my heart for coming today, sharing with us such a valuable information. I truly would also encourage you, friends, if you are watching this or listening this, please share with your friends, because I feel that this episode can help so many, honestly can help any pet parent, and from doggies but also kitty cats, because behavior is behavior and the tips you
Yes.
suggested are tips. So I'm excited. I know that you'll be coming in the future as well, which
Yes, I
I'm
will.
very thankful, because you're busy, very, very busy person giving back. I also know that's kind of a juicy information, but Rita is working on a book series. So right now she's working on book number 1, which is going to be released next year, 2023. So there are a lot of things happening. Good
Yes,
things
and if
happening.
you would like to give back to me, you can on my Linktree link has all of my links. There's a link in there for the book interest sign up. So if you're interested in a really thorough herbal for dogs, and I will be mentioning cats in the book, you can sign up there, and it's just your email address. There's no marketing, there's no commitment. It's just saying that you're interested, and you'll get an email from me when you can pre-order the book.
Amazing. Woohoo! And I'm excited about this. So thank you so much for being with us today on the show. Thank you, friends, for watching or listening this episode. I really know that Rita gave us so much information, really valuable information. And I really hope, you rewatch or re-listen this episode, take a notepad, write down, and make sure you check out Rita's membership option, podcasts, the courses, also the book opportunity, personal question answer in her website. As you can see, Rita, you have tried and you have so many ways to help us as a community. So thank you very much for it.
You are welcome.
And I will
Thank
see
you
you
so
soon.
much.
Thank you. See you soon. Have a lovely day,
Bye.
everyone. Give a hug to your baby and just enjoy life. Thank you. Bye.